I think the biggest thing that's going to play out for us is the fact that we will have the ability to have full agent orchestration. One of the things that I've been preaching internally and we gently do out externally is self-driving marketing. The idea that how can I make a marketer 10 times more effective at 1/10 the cost? If you used to have 10 people that had to be able to do this, and now you have one who knows how to manage these agents, and the agents are experts on what they do, that's the future.
I feel like that opening line for every one of them is this changes everything.
Well, okay. So we've talked a little bit about how we're, like how it's affecting the work and affecting the people and how to, Jim continues to insult me with consultant speak about, my past. And it's just
well, I mean, I don't have the same visceral reaction to change management. I just don't think people love to hear that word because it's scary.
Well, and let's just be honest, it's oversold.
Yeah.
So,
it's fair.
But one of the things that people, hopefully are listening to us and wanting us to talk about it together is, kind of the experimental kind of things. And one of the conversations Jim and I have joked about, when is the next deal going to close where we're both going to put, a Spark on our desks and start playing with them? And I was talking to a client a few weeks ago and kind of coaching them as they start their AI journey because they kind of asked about do we need to run local models? And I'm like, no, because you don't know why you need to run a local model yet. You need to build fluency and I talked to them about, getting at bats and getting in the gym.
We use that term a lot. That's why we both smiled.
Yeah, I use it a lot.
We talk about at bats. That's what people need. Reps.
And so here, and one of the things I've told folks is one, until you're ready, you shouldn't, and also, until you have a certain level of fluency, it's not a conversation you need to have today. Where I think we would say that we're all at the benefit where the Anthropic and OpenAI and Google, right? They're still in the drug dealer model where the first one's free, right? we're getting a lot of stuff for for low prices that is not sustainable necessarily, but that's fantastic. Take that and run with it. But then when you learn, it sounds like y'all have gotten to a place where you're making some choices of local inference and putting some tools in place. How's that? Kind of what pushed you in that direction and kind of what kind of workloads, are local workloads?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. What pushed us that direction? I don't exactly recall. What did? One of our coworkers was just like, hey, have you heard about the SparkBox? And I was like, yeah, I've seen a lot of these being advertised, like this AI super box. And there were a ton of them last fall. Right. And so at one point I decided, all right, I'm going to give it a shot. NVIDIA's doing this one. Let's roll with NVIDIA's. We got the NVIDIA Spark. And, just again, it's at bats of trying to have that experience. And honestly, NVIDIA did a fabulous job at putting that together with hey, here are all the things you can do. Here's how much time it's going to take you to set it up. Here's all the instructions on how you get this set up and going. Right. And honestly, it made it a lot easier. The fact that Claude Code knew exactly how to execute that faster while I wasn't sitting at my desk. And so I could have it setting things up and getting things rolling for me. And so I think that really, again, created a good experience from that. I actually now have 3 of them. So I am 3 that are actively being used. And then we have another one sitting I guess it's actively used as well, but I'm not actively using it. So we have a lot of the local inference is really going into the things that you're constantly monitoring, right? So if you need a momentary high power thing, we go for, using something on Claude, or we'll use OpenAI or Codex, right? But if I need something, a case in point, in all of the AI interactions that we have with Cinch, we have a SparkBox that is running entirely to just monitor all of those conversations. Look at those conversations, see how they're going. Are people thumbs upping, thumbs downing? And where we get a thumbs down, What do we need to do to fix that? Taking that information and then passing that off to Claude to go try to write a fix for it and see if we can make a PR that needs to go out, right? And so those typically tend to be things that just like, hey, we need to tell the agent you can do this or you can't do this, right? Or you function like this, or, you know, they're typically not very big. If they are bigger, then it needs to go through a little bit more planning process. But we have it running for that. We also have it running just against our code base to constantly be looking to see, hey, are there places where we have security vulnerabilities? Are there places that we have just potential bugs, and what type of bugs there are, right? And how those could be. What else do we have monitoring? We have integrations. Just anytime when you're from our side, data coming in is really key. And so being able to monitor, are we getting the data that we used to be getting? Is there any inflections either up or down that we need to be aware of that maybe tell us an integration's broken? And so those are the types of things. They run 24/7, right? They're always trying to go deeper and deeper. And it would just cost an arm and a leg to try to pay Claude to be able to do that, right? And so if you think about, like, I'll talk to the CFO and Jim here a little bit, but if you think about, hey, how much would it cost to run tokens full time and to get that out of tokens? That would just be, you know, insane. Even if I was using Haiku or something on the lower end of things, it would still be pretty expensive. And so that's when it makes sense to go ahead and say, hey, let's get a box. It's $5,000. And let's go ahead and plug that in, right? I'm pretty sure you'd burn through $5,000 in easily a month, maybe even less, with some of the processes that we have going through. But then it allows you to run, like, I mean, you can run some pretty powerful models, right? You can run GLM 4.7 with, you know, typically most people, I would say you start with like anywhere from 30 to maybe 70 billion. But if you really want to quantize that and you want to make a few different aspects to it, you can do some pretty cool things to move that up. I've seen 2 billion work on a single Spark. Not very great, but it can work a little bit. But then you can also, to your point, Veer, you can cluster them. You can put them together. So I've got sitting right here, I've got 2 of them connected together, and it gives you 256 gigs and you can at that point run all kinds of things.
It's super cool. But, you know, the thing, I mean, you went past it really quick, but I want to make sure that folks catch this. This is what I heard, right? Is one, it's one thing that the system is listening and you're being able to use, you know, you're just paying for, you know, power, right? You're not paying for tokens, and it's queuing up issues or concerns. But you know, the part that I feel like you kind of went past, which, like, I think is the more like, oh, you guys are doing something. The fix is also being done and getting queued up. And really, Jim had talked earlier about Anthropic's 4Ds, and, you know, like, you're still leaving it in queue for a human to do discernment. Yeah. But the fact that you're not putting people in a place to discern, is this important? Okay, now we should go do something about it. You're making them as a gate to say, yes, that's important. I like what got fixed. Go. And, you know, like, you cut a whole cycle out.
Yeah. Well, think about how many times do you say, like, I mean, as a business owner, this has been my entire career, is like trying to decide and prioritize, like, okay, yeah, that's important. And somebody else might ask me, why didn't you do that? And it's like, well, because I had this. And as soon as you tell them about this, they're like, oh yeah, I get it. Makes sense. Right. Or some people even are like, well, you still should have done that. I'm like, well, that was that unfortunate prerogative I had to make. And maybe I'd agree with you today, but I didn't then, right? I didn't know. And so the nice thing is with this is you can start to, like, you don't have to worry about human trying to prioritize all of these things, as long as you know you can handle the output that they do at the end, right? And that's the key part, right? Is you can trust it to go fix a, you know, in case, like, it's Cinch, we have what we call Cinch Ops, and Cinch Ops is able to, I let it go fix anything that it finds in there and just tell me what it fixed. I let it go through the PR and even deploy those processes, right? And in fact, this morning, Jim and I were talking about a couple different things, and I just asked it, I gave it jumped on, used good old whisper flow, I've actually transitioned over to a tool called Peanut, which I actually like a little bit better because it'll read back to you as well. Just put that plug out there for Peanut.
I'm a heavy WhisperFlow user, so I'm like, oh, that would be interesting to see. All right.
Yeah. No, it's great because then you can just be like, read this back to me and let it read, so I can still be pacing in my office, getting some steps in or something while I'm thinking about whatever it's talking about. But I can just let it. In this case, this morning, I just pulled up Peanut, hit my Control Start button and told it what I wanted and gave it some context, some extra files, and ran off with it. Right. So it built it, it deployed it, put it all together, and ran with it. And so those are the types of things where, in certain realms, right, you got to have some places where you can toy around with it, where you can be like, okay, you know what? If that breaks, I know I can just roll back to go back to my Git logs, roll back to it. It's not going to ruin anything at the end of the day. Now, Cinch Ops is actually becoming more valuable to where it could, but it's those types of things, like having just that little project that you can work on, that you can gain the trust, and when you know how that trust works, right? I think one of the things I've expressed to our team is that, in fact, yesterday I was on with our marketing team, and I told them, it's like, guys, look, the future is you managing your own agents. I want you guys to leave this company one day, not next week, not next year, maybe not in the next few years. I like our team, right? But I want you, when you leave here, to be the most versed in your trade with AI than anybody else that's out there, so you can nail a great job.
So I am really glad you said that. I am not trying to interrupt your flow here. Intentionality and letting people know what you're doing, that's another key point. That's something that I've done when I've implemented AI at scale. Certainly not to the level you have. Mine has been more of a, how do I get it started as a process or as a thought in a company, but being intentional about telling the employees that you are actually building a skill set for their career, for the long term, that will set them apart. I think that's really important.
Yeah. It was actually really, yesterday, it was actually really nice because our copywriter, her name's Erica, she had some really good questions. She's like, okay, so help me understand, help me see how this works, right? How would this function for me? And how would that work with other people on my team, right? And so as a copywriter, I told her, it's like, okay, what are the things in your job that become a little bit more mundane, right? That they just take a lot of time. And if you could have them take less time, those are the types of things we need to do. So it could be like research. I need you to go do competitive research against, whoever else has this product. I need you to also just go research internally. What are the case studies we have? What are these things that we have that we could use? Once you have a researching agent, right? You maybe then have an agent that goes and looks at the tone that is used by a bigger company like Salesforce that maybe we're not fully competing with, but we want to emulate. And so we pull some of those in, and explaining to her that your job is to really figure out how you can become the trainer of these agents. You need to train them. You need to then figure out how they work together. Maybe you then write, as a human, you continue to take the long form. You are going to be the one that writes out the actual case study, but you can have an agent that goes and does the analyst aspect for you, brings back that data and what the case study was and how it turned out. You can have the communication going out to the customer to try to follow up with them about the case study. That can all be automated. But then you write the actual case study. You take the core of how am I going to bring the value. Maybe you do it by having a conversation with an agent, but you put that value together, and then you say, now I'm going to have another agent who's going to turn this into short form, and it's going to turn it into a LinkedIn post. It's going to turn it into an ad on Facebook. It's going to turn it into whatever it might be, right? And so she can take and manage this. She can be the manager of a series of agents that are orchestrated together, but she has to be the one that teaches those agents. Going back to the whole leveling up, right? It's like over time, she's going to get better and better. She's going to know how those agents need to work. She's going to know the processes they're going to go. She's going to know how Sonnet works versus Opus when she's using those. And being able to dive into, you can't tell we're really a Claude shop over here, but that's, those are the types of things that I think are going to really help people to understand, hey, you can you can be a whole lot more effective. And I think for everybody, this can start to 10x what they can actually do, right? At the least, you should be able to 2x your outputs.
Well, I agree. And so, okay. If we work towards kind of like land in the plane kind of stuff here, right? Like, two questions, right? First one is 12 months ago, right? What did you believe about AI a year ago that is, has exceeded your, you're like, I didn't even think it could do this. But, cause you've been using it for more than, you've been using it for several years, in earnest, right? And the reason for asking that question, kind of the frame of it is how much has it changed in just a year? I wouldn't have done this a year ago. I can't believe it's here this year.
Yeah, that's a solid question. A year ago, I would say I probably, actually, a solid one is Excel, right? I was still totally using Excel for all kinds of things, right? Claude, Skill, and Excel made huge leaps and bounds. Maybe it was late Q4 last year, or maybe the beginning of this year. But those, that changed the game in a lot of ways for me. Like I should have thought about it. Like, all we got was a spreadsheet is a bunch of code behind it, right? But the ability to be able to drop that in. I remember I dropped in a spreadsheet into Claude and I said, hey, I need you to recreate something like this with our numbers. And here's access to our Snowflake database. Go recreate it. And it did. And I was impressed, especially as somebody who I consider myself a very high power user of Excel, being able to, I was doing machine learning regression analysis in Excel in 2010, right? But I was just so thoroughly impressed. I was like, okay, this is getting to be game changing. And then I think the next one I probably think was, I didn't expect it to turn into being able to actually develop code as fast as it really has. And so if I take an example, right, 2022 Copilot's out, and on Copilot in GitHub, right? It's not very great. It can help answer a few things, but not fabulous. And then you had ChatGPT that came around. I got on ChatGPT way early. Like, I had some fun with it, but there wasn't a lot of business. Like, it wouldn't solve the business things that I could do faster myself, right? And so those kind of changed and came along, right? But I think it was really when Claude launched their desktop app, and I got to go back and remember when that was. I think it was February or March of this year, but that was I think the biggest game changer that made things move a whole lot faster, right? Is now you had Claude code that didn't have to be accessible through an IDE and using it in VS Code. I did try anti-gravity for a little bit from Google, but all of a sudden it became so easy to use it and get value with Cowork or with Claude Code in this desktop app. And then eventually it got to the point where, honestly, the biggest game changer for me was the remote access, right? When I could all of a sudden just be out on my phone at a kid's soccer game, and I'm like, yep, no, he's out sitting on the bench. I'm just, sitting here telling my agents to get back to work, right? And that maybe lines up the story of those changes all happened in the last year, right?
Last 6 months.
Yeah.
No, there's a little bit of, the story is bananas when you start looking at it. And so, I think, it sounds like you're also, you got your finger on kind of the pulse of, changes that are coming, playing with new toys that are coming out. Jim and I are doing similar with different models or local inference or building things. But, for you, as you're doing strategic, as an executive looking at this, as a tool set, but as this very, I couldn't have imagined in July of last year what I would be doing in February of this year, much less what I'm building and putting together now. but I'm more fluent, and right, I've gotten a lot of at bats, right, and so now, kind of, what do you see, kind of like the goal here, what's next for Cinch, and how's this gonna like really play out for you guys?
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest thing that's going to play out for us is the fact that we will have the ability to have full agent orchestration, right? One of the things that I've been preaching internally, and we gently do out externally, is self-driving marketing, right? The general idea, we've talked about it a little bit here on how we're using it or how we've used it in different ways, but the idea that how can I make a marketer 10 times more effective at 1/10 the cost, right? If you used to have 10 people that had to be able to do this, and now you have one who knows how to manage these agents, and the agents are experts on what they do, that's the future. And that's where, I definitely am striving to get our team to, I'm striving to get our product to. But, you think about, how much effort and time it takes to just go set up a campaign to run a digital ad campaign, or building an email template, right? To send that out. And those email templates within Cinch now are being dynamically created. An AI can go create them, put them together, design them where they want to go. And that's where we're going, right? The idea is, how do we get to self-driving marketing? And I think it's actually really cool have you guys driven self-driving cars? Tesla? Yep.
Well, it's funny, very, very quickly. So I have one. I drive a Model Y, and Veer visited. He came to town, spent a few days as we worked on podcast and all other things that we work on. And he drove it home from the airport. So Veer, what did you think?
I mean, it really was like, right, as a technologist, like I've known about it for a long time. I've been with folks in cars, right? Right, with Super Drive in a Cadillac, and in rentals and stuff. And yeah, it is jaw-droppingly impressive, right? I mean, just, because you're keeping in your head the math, right, that's happening around you to make that possible. It is, it's impressive.
It's
so have you been on a Waymo
very
then?
impressive. Yes.
Yeah.
Right. The idea of the Waymo, right? No, the legal obligation is now on Waymo, right? They to make sure that drives safe, that it handles everything. Insane the amount of calculation that is going on, the input that is coming in to make those decisions, the decisions that are being made so quickly, right? I mean, actually, there's some Chinese self-driving vehicles that are even more mind-blowing, right? I have not experienced those in person, but I mean, I'm halfway tempted to fly to the other side of the world to go experience.
I think it would be amazing, right? Because that Waymo is fantastic, but it's got all the stuff hanging off the sides of it, and we have them here in Nashville, where I live, and I've watched them get stuck, in the gore in between two roads, or where there's, but it's impressive. It's impressive how much data is getting crunched. It's impressive the fact that we're able to do something now. It did not take us this level of, we didn't need this to put men on the moon. Yeah. If you're, as long as one of the guys who doesn't believe that wasn't a real thing and stuff. So,
world is round. Men went to the moon. Yes.
Yeah.
But right, it is really impressive. So yeah, I mean, what do you think? So that that you guys will be, kind of working towards this self-driving marketing, which I think is an interesting,
which is a cool extension of it's using the data and using it in it's an extension of what you're already doing with email and text at Cinch, and then now taking that out to really paid media.
Yeah. I mean, you think about it, the crazy thing about self-driving vehicles, those take your life into your hands, right? They can make a wrong decision and you're dead, right? Or, you're going to be, costly decisions that might happen right there in your personal life, right? The thing that's really crazy is that we don't have self-driving marketing yet, because why? I mean, we have the data. It's all here. It's way easier to actually work with, and all of my competitors that might ever watch this, just, it's hard for you. It's easy for us. But the idea that,
well played.
If you don't, you're not going to kill somebody if a decision's made wrong, right? In fact, half the time in marketing, you make a wrong decision, it gets more attention, right? And so the concept here that we're talking about at Cinch is there's those levels of self-driving, right? You got cruise control by itself, level 1, right? Okay, that's basically what marketing does today. Well, you know, you got MailChimp, Constant Contact that do things like that. Let's send an email out. We're just going to automatically handle this, like go at the pace we need to. But then you get level 2, you start to introduce lane keep assist, you introduce the adaptive cruise control, automatic braking, some things along those lines, right? That becomes tools that have that are automated marketing, right? I'd consider Cinch in the space between level 2 and 2+ right now, and so those are making certain decisions, but they're still following a lot of logic that is just defined by the user. You get to level 2+, and now you're getting to the FSD from Tesla, right? You're getting into some of the Mercedes class side of things, and these are places where now automation is making decisions. Liability is still on the marketer in this case. Like, they have to ultimately make the decision, but they can let it go, be more automated, make deliveries and decisions for them. And then you get to level 4, right? You're talking about the Waymos, the Zooks that are out there. And now we're taking more liability away, but we're letting the engine take a lot more decisions. To get to all this, you have to take those steps, just like we've talked about the whole time. It's like, you got to have those levels that you're going through. And those help make the decisions, that help the agents know, how do I make the right decisions? Because I've had human in the loop as I go each of these stages within the bounds that I have. And so that's where we're going. Self-driving marketing. The goal is to get to how we can make people far more effective, making better content, making better things that engage with customers and actually become valuable. We don't need to send millions of emails out every single week just to try to bring that revenue in, right? We can be more targeted. We know the destination. We know who's going to potentially respond. And how do we bring that business in, right?
This, I got to tell you, I mean, Veer, for a first guest on our podcast, I think
Don't flatter me.
I think, okay. So truthfully, I'm inspired because a lot of the things that Veer and I have talked about, you've brought up, it's nice to find a kindred spirit, but it's nice to find somebody who's working in a real, Veer and I can talk about this and we can tinker a little bit with some of the clients that we work with to their tolerance. It is very interesting to talk face to face with somebody who's doing it practically, actually engaging with it and making it happen, at scale. I think that's everybody should be inspired by it because a lot of businesses can punch above their weight class right now.
Yeah.
If they start to work a little bit on this change management and get people to start using this daily. This has been an absolute incredible conversation. Veer.
Definitely. No, I mean, so we appreciate you, appreciate the time. I think we've been trying with the whole idea of functional executives to be able to have something that's of value to our peers, right? Not just, so we can talk a little bit about the down and dirty functional, nerdy pieces of it. But I think we've talked a lot about the strategy that you've been pursuing. And, I don't want this to go unsaid. I think one thing that I heard from you consistently, and because I think it resonates with me and Jim, is because we're out talking with people out in the marketplace about this, is you consistently brought the person back into the conversation, right? This was not about, I'm going to build a company that saves money. I'm not building a company that is just efficient and cold and lifeless, but this is about investing in people, making people feel heard, both from the people you serve as customers, the people that they serve, their customers, and then your team, being able to say, this is about, we are really, trying to lift up everyone, in a way. And the technology is helping.
Yep.
And the other thing I wanted to do, Justin, is just give you an opportunity because we'll try to, in the show notes, also put a link to Cinch. But why don't you just quickly say how people can find you? Are there any trade shows that you're going to be at that people might want to know about here in the near future?
We will definitely be at Pest World coming up, and then SEMA and Apex in November. So those are some of our bigger shows where we'll be at. Through the rest of the summer, we've got a series of other shows that we'll be going to more regionally. So any show we can get to in the home services or automotive services show space, we try to get to those. Otherwise, check us out on the internet. Cinch.io is our website. Our name is Cinch, but our our website is Cinch.io. Yeah, that's how you can find us. If drop us a line if you want to find out how we can help you with AI and your marketing, and just fill out a form to schedule time with our sales team, or you can even try out our AI voice agent right off of the website. And we've got a self-serve motion. You can sign up. In fact, I'd encourage you both of you go check it out, try it out, and you can talk to one of our voice agents.